Hi, today I want to show you how I make vegetarian bacon or eggplant jerky. Now this is a family favorite. The first time I tried it about 2 years ago, I was hooked. And I guess I initially tried it because I was online Googling recipes, vegetarian recipes, because I was either being a vegan or a vegetarian at the time. But this is a keeper no matter what kind of diet you're on, and especially for those who are vegetarian or vegan. So here we go. So here are the ingredients. It calls for eggplant, olive oil, balsamic vinegar, pure maple syrup, paprika, and optional regular or applewood-smoked salt. So the first thing is I didn't create the recipe on my own. I found it online from a woman named Eileen Barron, and her website is everyoneeatsright.com. So the very first thing I do is get a large eggplant. I can't say I've ever used one because it's so good. I always make either 2 medium-sized eggplants or cut up 3 smaller eggplants, and then I slice them because it is vegetarian bacon to me. I don't, dice it into blocks or anything. I physically slice it. And sometimes when I use the slicer, sometimes they don't always slice as well as I would like them to. But that's okay. As long as you do your best to keep them sliced evenly and thinly, so probably a less than a centimeter, less than a quarter of a centimeter wide, thick. And those are the best ones. So this one turned out perfect. This is a perfect example of what I would recommend your slices, what you should desire your slices to look like. And so I cut the eggplants and just slice them and put them aside. Then you have to make the marinade. So the marinade consists of, according to the recipe, a half cup of olive oil. And I found that I love the recipe so much that I didn't want to skip on the marinade. So I would double it. 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, 2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup, and 1/2 teaspoon of paprika. And then to finish it off, right before it goes into the oven or dehydrator, sprinkle it with regular or applewood-smoked salt. But I, again, love the recipe so much, and I don't want it to skimp, so I sometimes make more than the recipe calls for, more eggplant. So it's important, it's imperative for me to double the amount of marinade. And the recipe calls for you to just whisk it, but I found that the whisking didn't work well enough for me because the oil separated too quickly, and that made it just wasn't consistent enough. So I found that if I put everything in the food processor and truly get all the oils and ingredients mixed together, then that served for a more consistent marinade, and everything was absorbed better into the eggplant strips and just worked really well. And once that's in, I begin to dip all of the eggplant slices in one at a time. And I just don't pour it on because I want them to be fully saturated with the marinade mixture. It takes a while, but it's well worth it to get all of the eggplant saturated and marinated, and then I smooth it out. Oh gosh, look at all of the ingredients. Look at the paprika, and it's going to be so wonderful. I just know it. And then once I saturate all of them with individually, then I smooth and spoon some more of the marinade on top. And then I cover everything with some kind of clear wrap. I don't know if it's necessary to do this, but I do, just in case there's anything in the refrigerator that may have permeating scents, like onions or something. So I just put everything I put the cover on and put it in the refrigerator and let it marinate. The recipe calls for 2 hours. So sometimes I leave it in for definitely no less than 2, but 3-4 hours. It doesn't get any better the longer you let it in, because once I let it sit overnight, but it didn't seem like it was that much different. I didn't notice a difference. So as long as you marinate for 2 hours, that's enough. But you know, I think my sweet spot is about 3 to 4 hours, and I'm just really sure that everything is good and marinated. And then when I go and put them on the rack on the dehydrator, you know, everything looks great. And you may not have a dehydrator, because when I first started doing this recipe, I did not have one. So I would just put it in the oven. And so if you put everything on a tray, and I would use the parchment paper to absorb all of the liquid, and this is also before I found out about using the food processor to make sure all of the olive oil was definitely combined in it. So you know, I'd put everything on a tray on parchment paper, and you put that in the oven for the lowest possible degrees. So my oven would go down to 140 degrees, and then you know, you just have to leave it in there for 10 hours. But once it's lined, and then you use take a look at the salt, and this is the applewood-smoked salt, which is optional, or you could use regular salt. It's a really great addition to having it on your eggplant jerky and let that bake in. So one time I didn't have smoked salt, so I had some liquid smoke, and I used that combined with other salt I had, and it worked just as well. But it does, you know, the combining of the salt with the hint of sweetness from the maple syrup really does add something. So I recommend you don't leave out the applewood salt. And once it's over, oh my gosh, is this delicious or not? You know, my husband was a little skeptical at first, but you know, now we fight over the eggplant jerky. So is it easy? No, but it's so worth it. Please let me know your thoughts about it if you try making your own eggplant jerky or vegetarian bacon. I'm going to put the full recipe and all of the instructions in the comment box, but please, in the meantime, like and subscribe, share this with your friends, because they'll thank you for it.